Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals siding with, what do you know, Donald Trump and his administration. This coming out just last night. Here we go. Let's take a look. Appeals court seems inclined to let Trump control National Guard in LA for now. A 3-judge panel sounded skeptical of California's arguments that President Trump should return control of National Guard troops to the state. So this is a big deal. Again, just coming forward last night. Let me see if I can get this on the screen for you. This is from the New York Times, and it must have killed the New York Times to have to admit this. But the Ninth Circuit, which I should also remind you is known to be historically insanely liberal, okay? We're talking West Coast lefty stuff. And yet the Ninth Circuit, in this 65-minute hearing that they had, the 3-judge panel, they came out and said, well, you know, yeah, like constitutionally, the president does have this right. And you know why the president has this right. We've been through it. They used this thing, the Title 10 U.S. Code 12406, which allows for, it's a federal statute, allowing for a president to call into federal service members and units of National Guard in such numbers as he considers necessary to execute the laws of the United States. Okay, so this was a big deal. He did this and they were like, you can't. I mean, you saw Gavin Newsom. You can't. Have some decency, Mr. President. You can't. And he's like, all these guys are going to be out here by noon on Friday. Well, it turns out, no, they weren't, because even though Gavin Newsom went and took this up in the court, even though that particular judge said, okay, Trump, you can't nationalize or federalize the National Guard, that then went to the appellate court. And it was on the Friday before the No Kings protest weekend. And on Friday, the liberal Ninth Circuit came out and said, you know what? For now, it stays. And we're going to look at it again next week. Well, they looked at it yesterday. And they're going to look at it again tomorrow. But right now, they're making the decision that, guess what? Donald Trump has that power. So New York, get ready. Letitia James, you can band together with all those states and try and create your own little union. But guess what? The Supreme Court of the United States is going to side with the feds. Let me be really clear on that. Because if you don't have a federal government that has the ability to put the laws that are on the books into place, then you're going to have a really big problem. All right, so this is the deal. I get it. They don't want the National Guard in New York. They don't want the National Guard in California. But if you're not enforcing the law, if you're standing in the way of the feds trying to enforce the law, then guess what you're going to get? You're going to get what you're getting. You're not going to get upset, as they say. That is what is going to happen. So Kathy, good luck. Letitia, good luck. Gavin, good luck. You can stomp and fight and throw a big temper tantrum and maybe get the law changed. But the law is the law. And so if you're not enforcing it, then guess what? Yes, the president has every right to say, I'm going to take over here. And by the way, historically it has happened. Think 1963, George Wallace, Alabama, okay? Where they wouldn't allow for integration at a particular college. And so what happened? They had to send in the troops, so to speak. You had to send in the federal troops. Now, in that particular case, I believe they were able to use the Insurrection Act. They also had a court order. But again, it gets back to, where is the power? If Congress has the power to make the laws, and they do, and they make the laws and they say that you cannot have people illegally in the country, then who carries that out? The federal government is in charge of carrying that out. Why? Oh, because, you know, the federal government is in charge of things like immigration. And we went through this yesterday, and I don't need to do it all with you again, but you know, constitutionally, this is where we are, okay? Constitutionally, this is what happens. You've got all the power with the feds over the states, in part because of the Commerce Clause. You also have the Supremacy Clause. You have the Naturalization Clause. You name it. The power is with the federal government when it comes to immigration. So Kathy, you know, you can sit there and say, well, we're sanctuary, we're this, we're that. It doesn't matter. And that, again, has been proven out in the courts, 2012 in Arizona, where they tried to say that. And ultimately, what was decided was all this sanctuary business. No, it's not going anywhere. And so now you're in a moment where Letitia James is actually trying to stand in the way of federal government, where Kathy Hochul is standing in the way of federal government. And this is This is a big deal, okay? They kept saying that Donald Trump wants some kind of, war, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wait a second, who wants what? You guys are the ones that are doing this. Let's be really clear. You guys are now the problem. Amazing, amazing, amazing. I got to hand it to Arnold Schwarzenegger because he went on to The View and tried to explain this to these ladies. Actually, he did it in a different way. He didn't get really legal or anything on them. He actually just explained that, part of being an immigrant is acting a certain way and recognizing that you're a guest. We're going to get to that. They were totally stunned into silence, which is amazing. And I'm like, this guy, I know Arnold's had his issues and said some things in the past that not necessarily sit so well with a lot of people, including me, but nonetheless, he really outdid himself on The View, and I want to show you that clip. But before I do, remember, we are completely independent here on the Trish Regan Show. We love being independent, and part of being independent is having great advertisers like our friends over at American Hartford Gold. You can call 1-844-495-1115 to learn more about investing in gold today. You can go to Trish Loves Gold. The great thing about these guys is you can get up to $15,000 with qualifying offers in free silver when you invest in gold, and you just, name drop a little and mention Trish. So go check that out today. You can text Trish to 65532 as well, 65532, and you'll get more information about all of this. I mean, I do see gold as one of those investments that is good through thick and through thin. I'm just going to check gold prices right now as we look at a market that's recovering from yesterday, and sure enough, gold basically even, but it had been, let's see, maybe yesterday it was up a little bit. It's one of those things that I tend to buy when it goes down. Check it out there. TrishLovesGold.com. Really, really good stuff. Meanwhile, another just heads up I wanted to give you is we've been looking at right now, as you know, we've been looking at, let me put this on the screen in the proper place. There we go. It's almost there, right? ProtectProsperity.com. We've been talking about how they're trying to get the bill through the House and the Senate, and it's really critical in terms of those tax cuts that they get renewed. I mean, I'm fingers crossed, right? Fingers crossed. I'm pretty sure it's going to happen, but and I think that this is why Donald Trump was elected, in part to deal with the economy, as well as the immigration issues. So I'm hopeful, but it's not a sure thing yet. And I think it's really important. You know me, I've never been a tax cut I don't like, but all that said, it's critical for the country and for our economy that we do get these tax cuts. And the great folks over at AFP are just terrific. We love them, and they're so insightful and knowledgeable, and they have a team there at Protect Prosperity. I'd encourage you to check it out because it gives you a lot more information on the importance of the tax cuts. You can get involved at a grassroots level if you so desire. But I just think, look, we need all the help we can get economically speaking, do we not? And speaking of all the help we can get, I need all the vitamins I can get. Balance in Nature, that's what I take. You can take it as well. 35% off with code word TRISH. Just call them, 1-800-246-8751, 1-800-246-8751, or go to balanceinnature.com. Use code word TRISH, 35% off, plus free shipping, plus money back guarantee. So no harm, no foul. Balance in Nature, just one of the great ways to help you stay healthy. Besides your water, besides your exercise, besides eating right, this is one of the tricks. So check it out at balanceinnature.com.